2 days in Berlin? You could still cover the main landmarks without running all over the city. I'll walk you through the central area, past the major Cold War sites and into the museum district, with useful tips built in as we go. Hit like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Day 1. Berlin's historic core and central landmarks. The Brandenburg Gate. We're jumping right into the thick of it at the Brandenburg Gate. And since everything on the route this morning is within a 10-minute walk, you can forget about the U-Bahn for a while. This gate has been the city's anchor since 1791, and if the architecture looks familiar, it's because it was modeled after the entrance to the Acropolis in Athens. It has a massive bronze chariot on top that Napoleon famously liked so much he stole it and hauled it back to Paris as a war trophy, though the city eventually got it back. It's wild to think that during the Cold War, these columns were trapped in the middle of the death strip, with the Berlin Wall running right beneath them. Today, the square is a wide-open pedestrian zone, so walk straight through the central arches to check out the sandstone carvings without any barriers or fences in your way. The Holocaust Museum. Head a few blocks south to the Memorial of the Murdered Jews of Europe. This is a grid of 2,711 gray concrete slabs spread across nearly 5 acres of the city. From the sidewalk, it looks like a flat field of stones, but the ground is designed to slope downward as you walk toward the middle. The pathways are narrow, and the cobblestones are intentionally uneven, so keep an eye on your feet. As you move deeper into the grid, the concrete blocks rise nearly 5 meters or 16 feet above you, which actually mutes the noise from the Berlin traffic. There's a free underground information center with a database of names, but the line gets massive by noon, so I recommend hitting the outdoor section first while you still have some space. Insider tip. Look at the ground right next to the Brandenburg Gate for a double row of cobblestones cutting through the pavement. That marks the 155-kilometer or 96-mile path of the Berlin Wall. Follow that line across the asphalt to find where the concrete divide once physically stood. The Reichstag. As promised, you won't need to touch a transit map to reach our next stop. Just walk a few minutes north to the Reichstag, the seat of the German parliament. This building has been through everything from fires to bombings since it opened in 1894, but the real highlight now is the massive glass dome sitting right on top. Entry is free, but you have to register with your passport details well in advance because the security here is tighter than at the airport. Once you're through the gates, an elevator takes you to the roof where you follow a 230-meter or 754-foot spiral walkway to the peak. The whole thing's wrapped in glass, so you get a full view of the city as you climb. Look straight down through the glass floor in the center of the dome to see the politicians in the plenary chamber below. It was designed this way so the public literally stands above the government. Give yourself about an hour for the security check and the walk to the top. Insider tip. If you can't snag a spot for the dome tour, book a table at the Kaffee rooftop restaurant right next to it. You'll have to pay for a meal, but it's a separate reservation and a reliable way to get onto the Reichstag roof without fighting for the limited public time slots. Afternoon. Lunch at Wurst. Once you're back on the ground, head toward the edge of the Tiergarten to find Wurst. This is a classic Berlin street food kiosk that skips formal seating for high-speed service right on the sidewalk. It's the perfect find for when you want heavy, traditional meals without the hour-long wait of a sit-down restaurant. The move here is the currywurst, a sliced bratwurst drowned in spiced tomato sauce and topped with a hint of curry powder. If you want something simpler, I recommend the classic bratwurst served in a crusty roll with plenty of sharp mustard. You're looking at about $8 to $14 for a sausage and a drink. Grab your food and use only one of the tall standing tables nearby. It's the most efficient way to refuel before heading deeper into the park. Tiergarten and the Victory Column. Once you've grabbed your food, step straight into the Tiergarten. This is Berlin's version of Central Park, a massive stretch of forest right in the middle of the city. We aren't just doing a quick pass through. follow the main paths that cut through the trees toward the Victory Column. This monument was built to mark Prussian military wins, and you can't miss the golden statue of Victoria perched on top. If your legs aren't tired yet, you can actually climb to the viewing platform. It's 285 narrow spiral steps to the top, and since there's no elevator, be ready for a workout. Entry's $4.50. The platform puts you right under the golden statue and gives you a straight shot down the June 17th Avenue toward the Brandenburg Gate. Topography of Terror. Head south out of the park toward the Topography of Terror. It's a heavy shift in tone, but this is one of those places you really can't skip if you want to understand Berlin. The museum's actually built into the excavated basement ruins of the former Gestapo and SS headquarters. Most of what you'll see is outdoors, with massive glass-covered panels set right into the original trenches where the regime's power was centered. The displays walk you through the timeline of how everything unfolded, and you're reading the history on the exact ground where these decisions were made. You'll also find a massive 200-meter stretch of the Berlin Wall still standing along the edge of the site. There's no entry fee, so you can take as much time as you need to move through the outdoor sections and the indoor gallery. Insider tip. When you're walking along the outdoor trench, look closely at the brickwork under the glass. Those are the original cellar walls of the Gestapo prison. You can watch all the documentaries you want, but seeing the actual foundations of the prison still in the ground makes the history feel much more tangible. Checkpoint Charlie. Next up is Checkpoint Charlie, which was the most famous gate in the Berlin Wall for anyone who wasn't a German local. Back in the day, this was the primary crossing point for diplomats and foreigners, and it was even the site of a massive tank standoff in 1961 that nearly kicked off the Third World War. The guardhouse in the middle of the street is a replica, but it sits exactly where the original barrier stood. You can walk right up to the famous "You're leaving the American sector" sign and check out the open-air gallery that runs along the sidewalks. It covers the craziest escape stories and the history of the border controls. The area is pretty commercial now. You'll see plenty of actors in uniforms and overpriced souvenir shops, so I recommend snapping a few photos and moving on. You only need about 15 minutes here to get the gist of it before moving to the final stop of the day. Insider tip. Skip the paid photo ops with the actors dressed as soldiers at the guardhouse. It's a total tourist trap. Instead, walk half a block to the corner of Friedrichstrasse and Zimmerstrasse to see the massive Checkpoint Charlie panorama if you want a better sense of the wall's scale without the staged gimmicks. Evening. Dinner at Mundo Tapas. For dinner, head over to Mundo Tapas, a Spanish spot just a short walk from Checkpoint Charlie. It has a high-energy, casual atmosphere that's a welcome shift from the heavy history we've been walking through all day. It's the kind of place where the tables are close together and the vibe stays lively well into the night. I recommend the gambas al ajillo, prawns in a garlic and chili oil, or the albondigas, which are traditional Spanish meatballs and tomato sauce. If you want something more substantial, their paella is a popular choice for sharing. Most individual tapas plates are between $6 and $11, so you can expect to spend between $35 and $50 for a full meal and a glass of wine. Grab a table, order a few different plates for the group, and take a breather before we start the second day. Day 2. Culture, Museums, and City Views. Gendarmenmarkt. We're jumping into Day 2 at Gendarmenmarkt, which is essentially the most photogenic square in the city. Most of Berlin feels like a massive work in progress, but this spot is the total opposite. It's framed by the Konzerthaus in the middle, with the French and German cathedrals sitting on either side in a perfectly symmetrical line. It's one of those rare places where the architecture feels completely finished and intentional rather than rebuilt. The square is a wide pedestrian zone, so you can walk right into the square to get a 360-degree look at the stone facades. Take a minute to check out the French cathedral. It was built by the Huguenots back in the 1700s and has a classic look that stands out from the rest of the neighborhood. It's a short trip from here to the next stop, so grab a few photos of the columns before moving on. Bebelplatz. Cut over a few blocks to Bebelplatz. At first glance, it's just a massive, open plaza, but you're actually standing in the spot where the Nazi book burnings happened in 1933. The memorial here is tucked away right under your feet, so you'll need to scan the cobblestones to find the small glass panels set into the ground. Lean over the glass and look down into the bright white underground room. Those empty bookshelves have enough space to hold 20,000 books that were destroyed on this exact patch of stone. It's one of those details that thousands of people walk right over every day without realizing what's underneath them, so make sure you're looking down as you reach the center of the square. Afternoon, lunch at Nante Eck. Head over to Nante Eck for a lunch that feels like a total throwback to 1920s Berlin. It's a traditional tavern with dark wood and brass details everywhere, and it's a great spot to dive into authentic local dishes in a relaxed old-school atmosphere. I recommend the Berlin-style calf's liver. It comes with braised apples and onions and is a signature item on their menu. If you want something else, go for the Königsberger Klopse, traditional meatballs and a creamy caper sauce that are a local favorite. Most mains fall between $18 and $28. The service is quick and the energy is high, so you can refuel and get right back to the sights while you've still got plenty of momentum for the afternoon. Berlin Cathedral. As you walk toward the river, the Berlin Cathedral dominates the view with its massive green dome and dark stone exterior. Most Protestant churches in Germany are pretty stripped back, but this one's the total opposite. The inside's decked out with gold, mosaics, and marble columns that make the whole space feel huge. If you have some energy left, take the 270 steps up to the dome's gallery. It's a solid workout since there's no elevator, but you get a 360-degree view of the Spree River winding through the city and right down onto the museum rooftops. Entry's about $11, and the doors stay open until 6 p.m. Museum Island. Just outside the cathedral, you're standing on Museum Island. This is a massive complex of 5 world-class museums, and since you only have the afternoon, the best move is to pick one rather than trying to rush through them all. A single museum ticket usually runs about $13 to $15, and most galleries stay open until 6 p.m. The Pergamon Museum is the most famous for its giant, ancient monuments, but the main building is currently closed for a massive multi-year renovation. You could still visit the Pergamon panorama across the street to see the altar in a digital display. If you want to see how Germany actually became a country, the German Historical Museum is the spot to hit. For fans of Egyptian art, the Neues Museum is where you'll find the Nefertiti bust. Give yourself at least 2 hours for whichever one you choose, so you aren't sprinting through the galleries. Insider tip. If you want the high culture vibe without paying for a ticket, walk through the Kolonnadenhof. It's the open-air courtyard between the museums, lined with massive columns and sculptures. It looks like a movie set and is a great place to see the architecture up close without standing in any lines. Spree River Cruise. After a morning of walking, heading to the water keeps things moving while you give your legs a break. You'll find boat docks tucked behind the Berlin Cathedral or along the banks of the Nikolai Viertel. These cruises cut through the heart of the city, passing the Reichstag and Museum Island. From the river level, you get a close look at the bullet holes still peppered into the old bridge foundations and the stark contrast of the modern glass government buildings. Most loops run for about an hour. Grab a seat on the top deck for the best views, though the glass-topped boats work just as well if the weather turns. Tickets land between $22 and $28. There's no need to overplan this. Just walk up to the pier and jump on to the next departure, which usually pulls out every 30 minutes. Alexanderplatz. Once you're back on solid ground, head over to Alexanderplatz. This was the center of East Berlin, and the architecture here is a massive departure from the classic stone buildings you saw earlier. It's a sprawling, paved square that feels functional and wide. Look up at the TV tower. It stands like a giant silver toothpick, and standing right at the base brings the massive scale of the structure into focus. While walking through the square, look for the World Time Clock. It's a 1960s socialist landmark that tracks the time in 148 different cities. Check out the intricate stone mosaic patterns set into the ground right beneath it. The whole area is a major transit hub and stays packed with people, showcasing the city's high-energy, modern side before you head off to find some food. Dinner and drinks at Sphere Tim Raue. To wrap up the trip, head back to the TV tower for dinner at Sphere, where the menu's designed by Chef Tim Raue. The restaurant sits 207 meters or 679 feet above the ground and slowly rotates, providing a full loop of the Berlin skyline while you eat. It's a lively space that serves a refined, modern version of local German classics. I recommend the Königsberger Klopse. These are veal meatballs in a silky caper sauce and are easily the most famous item on the menu. If you're just stopping by for the bar for a drink, cocktails can cost around $16, while main courses typically cost between $25 and $45. Since the restaurant requires a security check at the base of the tower, book your table in advance to skip the line. Useful info for spending 2 days in Berlin. Best time to visit Berlin. Berlin is most comfortable from May through September, when temperatures usually range from 18 and 27 degrees Celsius or 64 to 81 degrees Fahrenheit. These months make walking between landmarks and spending time in places like Tiergarten much easier. December is also popular with Christmas markets, but expect colder days around 0 to 5 degrees Celsius or 32 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit. January and February are the coldest, while July and August can get warm, but remain manageable compared to southern Europe. City airport tips. Most travelers arrive at Berlin-Brandenburg Airport, located about 27 kilometers or 17 miles from the city center. The easiest option is the Airport Express train, which takes about 30 minutes to reach the central stations like Hauptbahnhof or Alexanderplatz, and costs around $4. Trains run frequently and are reliable throughout the day. Taxis and ride apps are available outside the terminal. A ride into central Berlin usually takes 35 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic, and costs between $35 and $50. Where to stay in Berlin? For a short stay, Mitte is the most practical base. This area places you within walking distance of major landmarks like the Brandenburg Gate, Museum Island, and the Reichstag, with hotels typically ranging from $120 to $250 per night. Prenzlauer Berg offers a quieter, more residential feel with cafes and local spots, with prices usually between $100 and $200. If you prefer something more lively, Kreuzberg has a mix of restaurants and nightlife, with similar price ranges but a more alternative atmosphere. How to get around Berlin? Berlin's public transportation system is extensive and easy to use. The U-Bahn, S-Bahn, trams, and buses all connect smoothly, and a 24-hour ticket costs around $10 and covers most central zones. Walking works well in areas like Mitte, where many major sites are close together. For longer distances, trains run frequently and are usually faster than taxis in central areas. Ride apps and taxis are available, with short trips typically costing between $10 and $20 depending on the distance. Where to eat in Berlin? Berlin's food scene is massive, and you'll find everything from centuries-old taverns to high-end vegetarian spots. For a classic, no-nonsense German meal, head to Zur Letzten Instanz. It's the oldest restaurant in the city, dating back to 1621. The menu sticks to traditional plates like Grillhaxe, a roasted pork knuckle, or Königsberger Klopse, veal meatballs, and a caper sauce. I recommend the pork knuckle. It's slow-cooked with malt syrup and is a total staple here. Most main dishes land between $25 and $32. If you want something refined, book a table at Cookies and Cream. This hidden Michelin-starred spot focuses entirely on creative vegetarian cooking in an industrial setting. They serve multi-course tasting menus where the food is absolutely the focus. I recommend the onsen egg yolk with seaweed caviar if it's on the menu during your visit. Expect to spend at least $125 for the tasting menu, or closer to $200 if you're adding the wine pairing. For a fully plant-based option, go to 1990 Vegan Living in Friedrichshain. The kitchen turns out Vietnamese dishes in a space styled like a family home in 1990s Vietnam. I recommend ordering several of the small tapas bowls to share, like the banh seo rice pancakes or the dumplings. Most individual plates are around $6, while larger bowls fall between $12 and $18. 2 days in Berlin done, and you've covered the main landmarks, the museum area, and the key historical sites across the city. If this helped you plan your trip, hit like and subscribe for more guides like this. Want to see a completely different side of Germany? We've got Berchtesgaden waiting for you, with mountain views and landscapes that feel nothing like Berlin.